Does that help at all? I feel like you cannot hear me any more than you could before. But I feel cooler with a microphone. No, this is great. Thank you very much.
Can you get us an air conditioner?
They're working on it.
I don't even remember where I was. Sorry.
You got talking about film, your passion is animation too.
So after Undergrads, I did return to film as a screenwriter. I sold a number of feature-length film scripts in Hollywood, none of which were produced, unfortunately. But it was a good experience. It was definitely a learning experience. I found it far more difficult than writing for television, surprisingly. But I'd still like to return to it someday. But when the screenwriting thing didn't really seem like it was panning out, I did return to animation and just did sort of freelance work, commercials and that sort of thing. But I'd say if I had a dream job, it would probably be doing Undergrads again. I didn't know how good I had it.
I'm sorry if I'm exposing myself as like not sufficiently a fan to not have heard this story already, but I know, of course, that at the same era, Clone High had like a hunger protest that got it killed. So what happened with your poor experience in MTV though, that it wasn't such a smash hit as it was in Canada?
It's hard to say. You know, we heard rumors that MTV was trying to kill its animation department around the time that Undergrads was being produced. I think that maybe one of the reasons why it was allowed to come up to Canada as a co-production instead of just doing it in-house at MTV. I think they were really just trying to shut down the animation department, which is sad. I mean, it worked out great for me. I got to come up to Canada. I met my wife through the show, and it was a great experience. And I fell in love with Toronto. But it was really sad for MTV Animation, and shortly after, it was given the axe and MTV Animation shut down. I don't know if that completely had anything to do with why the show was canceled. It did seem odd that the show was cut off after only 6 episodes on the channel. We weren't getting tremendous ratings, but they did put us up against The Simpsons on Sunday night, so that was a little rough. But we were getting decent ratings, and we were getting good ratings for that time slot. So that it was a mystery. Again, the creators of the show, everybody that worked on the show, we just all assumed, a second season is a given. We thought we were just going to go right into it. So it was a bit of a blow when the show was canceled.
So they just wanted more space for terrible reality shows.
Exactly. And no music videos.
That goes without saying.
Yeah, without.
My favorite episodes is the Gimpy's prank war. And I've always wondered, did you have a different angle with those pranks, or did you have entirely different pranks for that episode and just chose those ones?
I think we did have a whiteboard filled with pranks. Probably, I would say 80% of them were not suitable.
Very ecology.
I can't remember what they were, but yeah, it was. We found that a lot with working with MTV. They seemed very quick to censor things. Even that, at the time South Park was on the air, and they were getting away with murder. And we're like, we got to compete with South Park, and they would just give us a hard time about everything. So that was definitely a challenge. But the Traditions episode was a lot of fun to write, and it was a chance to get Gimpy out of his room at the end. So G Prime.
Speaking of suitability, was there anything in the show in general that you wanted to do really bad but they wouldn't let you do? Just in the whole show?
I don't think so. Story-wise, they weren't really too controlling. Really, we were just left in a room to do whatever we wanted. It wasn't until we actually had a script that they, said, "Oh, you can't. You're holding on this guy's butt too long." But story-wise, no. I think we got to do everything we wanted to do, and it was an interesting experience. But I really feel like we were still kind of finding our way while we were writing the show. And by the time we got to the end of the 13th episode, we were like, okay, now we know what we're doing. Now we can hunker down and really turn out a nice season 2, and just didn't get that chance. Yeah.
Came a little late, so I hope no one already asked this, but did you get to choose the good Charlotte and to meet them or work with them in any way? Like, what were your feelings over that? Because I'm sure MTV probably had something to do with that.
They did have something to do with it. Originally, I was a big Blink-182 fan, and I wanted them to do the opening, and that was just my wishful thinking, because they were like, we're making millions of dollars, why do we want to write for this cartoon series? But MTV had come to us with Good Charlotte, and I ended up getting to meet the guys, and at first I wasn't crazy about the idea, but they ended up writing the theme song before we even had a deal. They watched a pilot animatic that we had come up with for the show, and just really quickly turned around what ended up being the theme song. I mean, it wasn't as well produced as what ended up on the show, but it was just sort of them jamming and doing it. But I was really impressed that they referenced Obi-Wan Kenobi in it. I was like, there you go. All right, I can get my head around these guys. And I met them, and they're really cool, and they were a lot of fun to hang out with. We got to watch them record the actual song as it appeared in the show. I was really happy with how it turned out, and I think it did fit the show perfectly. Yeah.
In the MTV version, they had another person voice Rocco. What's the reason why?
I was the guy that voiced it on the MTV version. So I was the original voice of Rocco, and halfway through post-production, Decode, who was the Canadian co-producer, they realized that I was doing too many voices on the show as an American, and they needed a certain number of Canadian actors to appear for tax credit purposes. So they had to replace one of my voices, and they felt that Rocco was probably the least painful for me to lose. So they hired an actor in Toronto to basically try to match my reads as closely as possible, and he ended up doing a really great job. I mean, it's very close. I still prefer mine better, but So I was the MTV version, and what you're all familiar with is probably the other guy.
Oh.
Yeah. So if I did Rocco right now, you'd be like, that's not Rocco. My Rocco sounds like this, Nitz, and it's basically as low as I can talk. Alpha.
We won't make you do that.
I just had to do that for an interview. Maybe at the end. Anybody else? Yeah.
Do you hate Star Trek, or is it just in the show?
I really hated Star Trek. I'll say that past tense because I did actually really enjoy the J.J. Abrams films. Probably because I hated Star Trek and it was like rewrote the entire history of Star Trek. But I just hated Star Trek so much. I think it was because I loved Star Wars so much, and there just wasn't room in my life for another franchise with the word star in it. So Star Wars was it for me. And I don't think I ever even watched a Star Trek film or watched any episodes that were on TV. It was just this unfounded, I hate Kirk, I hate Spock. You're not Chewbacca. So Gimpy's hatred totally came from me. Fortunately, Andy Reingold was a Star Trek fan. He was our head writer. So he provided all of the all the Star Trek references for us, because I don't know any of this stuff. Yeah.
Is the Douglar based on a real person?
I think the Douglar might be the only guy that's not based on a real person. I think he actually came from our imaginations, which
You broke
Andy,
my heart.
What's that?
You broke my heart just now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, he was based on this RA that I had. His name was the Douglar. The Douglar. Yeah.
Would there be anything in the whole adventure of the series that you would redo if you had a chance?
A lot of things I would redo. Like I said, we were kind of finding our way when we were doing the show. I had never run a show before. I think I was 20 or 21 at the time when we actually were producing the show. So it was a huge learning experience for me, and I didn't really know the process of once it's locked in on storyboard, that's it. They're not going to know in Korea or wherever we're doing the animation that Nitz isn't supposed to be smiling. If it's in the storyboard, Nitz is going to be smiling. That's the one moment I really would have loved to change, is at the end of the last episode when Nitz is climbing up onto the roof. He's got this giant, stupid smile on his face. That's not supposed to be there. He's supposed to be contemplating what he's going to do with his life and what that meant with Jesse and what's going to happen with Kimmy. And instead he's, hey, this is a lovely view. And unfortunately, when we got the animation back, at that point we needed to have the show packaged and sent off, and it was like we couldn't send that back for a redo. It was like, well, we're stuck with Nit smiling. So that was a big lesson learned of like, well, actually in the storyboard it looks like he was kind of smiling, and that's why they did that. So I should have fixed that in the storyboard. Yeah.
How do you watch Star Wars these days? I know a lot of people who keep their VHS tapes, and I know people like me who collect Laserdiscs just to watch the Laserdisc version.
Yeah.
How do you watch it?
I watch Star Wars. I've got a tin set. I don't know which issue of the series it is. It's on DVD, but it has the Redux, but on the other disc it has the original. Unfortunately, the original version, I don't know why or how Lucas can get away with this, but it's smaller. It doesn't actually, if you put it on your TV, it doesn't actually fill a widescreen TV. So you have these huge bars, and it like gets cropped in. You have to like zoom in on the TV to get it to fill your TV. But I refuse to watch the other version. So
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a question. More of a comment. Thank you, by the way, for making an awesome series. The reason I fell in love with it so much at the very beginning was I was in my first year of college when I was introduced to it. Exactly.
It was too old for you, young man.
My first year of college, it pretty much was exactly where these guys are right now. And I had come from the Pitt County, nowhere, Ontario, and like first apartment of my own in downtown Toronto. Going to college and like, oh my god, I'm these guys.
It sounds like you were Nits. It was me. I grew up in a small town as well. I went to college in New York City, so that was a big change of pace. But yeah, it was a scary time. It was, and I remember really feeling like I need to cling to my high school friends because I'm never going to make another friend in my life. And like, I don't know anybody here. I don't talk to anybody, so I'm just going to get on email and talk to my high school friends and see if they're going to do anything this weekend.
Just a question. You said that you're still trying to find funding to make a second season. Have you ever thought of using a Kickstarter or anything? Yeah,
absolutely. So the plan is right now to get permission from MTV and DHX, and we are pretty close on that. The conundrum is figuring out what we're going to get permission for, whether we're going to try to fund an entire season by ourselves or just fund a one-off Undergrads movie. That's sort of a self-contained story that would either answer all the questions that we set up and didn't get to finish at the end of season 1, or just use it as a tool to reintroduce Undergrads to a new audience and try to get that second season that way. But we're basically right now brainstorming an idea of what that movie would be if that's the direction we go in. But as soon as we get all that figured out, there will be a Kickstarter campaign.
Let's do this, guys.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Come on, guys!
When I was going to Carleton University a few years ago, every floor of the residences, they have a lot of underground tunnels being in Ottawa. They have, one floor did a Undergrads mural, so I was curious what your favorite tribute that you've seen to Undergrads has been.
Well, I've seen a lot of erotic knits and kinky hearts. I think this is pretty incredible. Kimmy Burton is sitting in the room, like, and it's a very detailed costume of Kimmy Burton, like right down to the skirt. Like the flowers on the skirt are the color, like everything. Like Kimmy Burton. Kimmy Burton, ladies and gentlemen. She helped out in the spring flames. We might remember her in last week's release of Cat. Hello?
No, it's